First of all, before I start formally presenting, I would like to congratulate and thank the organizing committee for bringing us to this academy. It was really refreshing for me, particularly Professor Haq, who has actually devoted probably most of his life to this event, and I learned a lot. I mean, to be frank enough, I was not really, I didn't know much about climate, the science. Particularly the loss and damage, but after going to Bangladesh, it helped me a lot. So thank you very much for the great insight. Now, what I've chosen this mapping loss and damages, challenges and opportunities. As you can understand from the recent history of the loss and damage, we know that there is a fund called Loss and Damage Fund. So, and everybody is very happy about it because it's the main milestone has been reached almost after the struggle of more than almost 30 years. And who was struggling? It was struggling, these developing countries were struggling, which is another framework of like why only developing countries were struggling for a problem which is basically global. And for that we need another session. At the moment, as you can see from what we've got, I was recently listening to one of the talks on this, and he says that in Antonio, he says that it's a beautiful frame with no picture on it. And I strongly agree with that. So what it means is that the fund, we do have the fund at the moment, but we don't know, we have the framework for it, but we don't know who's going to put funds, how much funds are going to go into that, and what is going to happen to it, right? So, and there's another study we just came that the developing countries need trillions of dollars. And we have seen already in, for example, in Pakistan, we have more than almost, I think, more than $15 billion they were asking for. So you can understand that there is a problem about funding, which I think hopefully with time we're going to sort out. But before that, because we need to understand, okay, we are going to bid for the funding to get the funding, but before that, we need to know how to understand about the loss and damage. And for that, it's very important to know how to map losses and damages. So that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about, the loss and damage. Why is it important to map? So here, for example, if you look carefully, I will try to annotate this also with spotlight. Okay, here, mouse. So as you can see from here, this is South Asia. You've seen that most of the sea level rise is going to have great impact on particularly in South and Southeast Asia. And apart from this, apart from the coastal communities, which will be directly impacted, we also have problems within the continental area. As you can see in Pakistan is a live example, and we've seen huge loss of, we have loss of life, and plus billions of dollars in the economy that was because of the climate, because of the flooding. And I come from Kashmir, and I will show you one of the examples from Kashmir, which we have, and I've done the field work there. So we had huge floods in 2014, and which more or less inundated more than like 40 or 50% of the entire area in one of the main cities. For example, you have the Dhaka, just like that is we have city in this Srinagar. It was completely inundated underwater. And so again, when we talk about the loss and damage, how many people got impacted, whether they got compensation for that or not, are they covered with the insurance? We have no data on that. In fact, there is very little data. So we do have these, what do you call this, economic and non-economic damages, more or less economic. Not even the economic damages are not even covered. They're really little, just like, for example, I was reading one of the reports which says that if a coconut tree gets impacted, like, the coconut trees last, you only get 500 Indian rupees for a coconut tree. That's basically nothing. So we have this, as I said, that originally we got a problem in South and Southeast Asia. There were a lot of people who would be impacted. But again, one is that, okay, sea level is going to rise, but you also know that there would be regional variations. There will be local variations, and which is extremely important. And for that, we need to map those things. And then we can get to understand how to compensate those people, because those regional and local variations are not covered in any model at the moment. There are only individual studies, but on a big model, they're not being put up. So that's a big challenge. For example, here, as I said, this is a Kashmir area. It was flooded in 2014. I will just show you quickly. So those of you who do not know where is Kashmir, so this is where it is located. Um, as you can see from this figure, this is the actual flooded area. You can see that on the northwestern side, this area got more floods compared to this side. So in other words, the flood, the way the flood was impacting people also, regionally it varies. Therefore, the extent of how many people were impacted, agricultural land and everything that was impacted also varies, which we need to map. So for example, here Srinagar, more or less whole of the Srinagar was underwater, and remember this is the main center of Kashmir, so whole of the Kashmir was basically under impacted because of this. So there is one village, and I will take example of this village. Why you can see that this is sitting on this river, and what happened here is that this whole of this village gets impacted by floods, and more or less systematic almost throughout the history they have seen floods, but now as you can see the intensity is more. Now these people they lose their agricultural land. Formerly the life is not lost in ever. Why? Because they've experienced these floods. So that's called the adaptation. They have seen these floods and they have the very good village system where they can inform each other. So that's very good in adaptation technique that the life is saved. But what we have, as I said, the agriculture is lost, and then we have the houses are lost, and not a single family in this village is secured by any insurance. Why not? Why are they not insured? The answer is to that question is because one, that most of this area is not registered under a government, right? So when the land is not registered in the government records, then you have absolutely no papers to show. One problem. Another problem is that people do not trust banks. They're saying that the insurance is like, this is a mindset. So that's a mindset problem. That's why they're not insured. And third is that they need some, what do you call this? You need to have some money to basically pay premiums. They are not people who have they are daily wage people. They do not have this, they're not salaried class. So where will they get the funds? I mean, these are some of the problems that I've encountered while in that area. And then you can understand why people are not secured from the disasters. And again, if you really want to map the whole of the village and try to understand how people get impacted, what has been impacted. For example, graveyards. When a graveyard gets impacted, it is a huge loss if you really think in non-economic ways, because graveyards will not be compensated. But people have all their memories there, and that as a Muslim state in there, they are anyone who has this this affiliation with the graveyards, and if that's lost, then how can you compensate it, right? And these are some of the things that we need to understand when we talk about non-economic loss and damage. So here is another place, which is Leh. Now this is a bit different from Kashmir. Kashmir is a huge valley. It takes time. So it gives you time, because if you have a huge valley, people can tell you, hey, there's a flood coming and there's a big valley, it takes time. But this one here, for example, this area, this Chaklamsa area, this is, so you can see that there's a mountain area, and they get these, the very quick floods. And so if there's a huge rainfall and then it comes very quickly, you get no time. So this flood in 2010 caused death of 200 people in this area. Why? Because it was 11 p.m. at night. They didn't get any time and it was washed away. Now, why would somebody have houses here? See, that's a question, that why would you have a house exactly sitting on a hazard? The answer to that is because they're poor people. There is lack of education. They do not understand how flooding works. And also there are the corruption, as you can see, that encroachment of the land, which is basically related to the floodplains, that is also a problem. And then we have, as I told you, that there are no insurance. People have somehow, they do not like insurance. And even in India, farmers, more than like just 7 to 10% of farmers have taken insurance. They're not taking insurance at all. And there's a problem to that. We can discuss on that. And also the refugees. For example, this area had a lot of refugees from China, right at that time, Tibetan refugees. So these refugees actually were sitting in areas which are basically not really suitable. I mean, because as you can see that they've been given some area and that area has a big hazard. So we need to consider also like whether we should take refugees into that particular area. First, you need to understand whether that area is suitable for them or not. So as I said, like when you talk about loss and damage, it's a huge task, and it needs a huge force to basically put everything on the frame, and then understand how we can put it on paper and make sure that everybody gets benefited from it and gets ultimately compensated. Thank you very much for your kind attention. I will be happy to answer any question you have. I'm sorry if I